In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A three-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
What can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports, episode 84, the second half. Brian Shackman here with John Senecal, special guest Maxwell Shackman. You will speak when called upon. You can say.
He was very, very persistent. We weren't going to get rid of him, that's for sure.
No, there's no doubt about it. And so, Max, you can chime in when the situation merits. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We also got some new for people watching.
Yes.
We have some new signage.
Nice job out of you.
Yeah. I have some good connections. This came through very nice.
We have a new banner for people watching on YouTube and want to check it out. They did a nice job.
Did a very good job. So we'll be able to take that when we go places on the road, hopefully, and then we'll set it up in here. Right now, it's kind of up real quick, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll do a long-term solution to the banner issue in studio. Obviously, people, we hope, we're consuming this, as they get ready for the second half of the season. I think we should start, honestly, since I'm talking, let's start with the Red Sox. They split with the Yankees, and they could have been swept. Then they got swept by Tampa, and then they lost 2 or 3 to the Yankees.
Which they should have lost 3.
Right. So
technically they should have been swept twice by the Yankees.
Right. And they went from top of the wild card 2 weeks ago to out of the mix. And I just looked at the schedule, and coming out of the gates, they have Toronto, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Houston. Right? That takes you through the beginning of August.
4 with Cleveland.
And 3 start with 3 with Toronto, 4 with Cleveland, 3 with Milwaukee, and then 3 at Houston.
So you got top of the division twice, tops of their division twice with Milwaukee, right? Are they top or is St. Louis the top? I think Milwaukee's at the top of the division.
And then you have Cleveland, which
is in the wild card.
They're hot and cold, but they have talent.
But remember, they're trying to push them off for the wild card too, right? If they're fighting them for the wild card, basically. So this is, they got a buzzsaw coming out of the break.
And basically, the Houston series gets you to my point is the Houston series gets you to the trade deadline. And so you're going to know pretty quickly whether the Red Sox have a season. And I can tell you that all the talk in Boston is, are they going to make any moves? Because everyone sort of thinks like they're not going to make any material moves because they're not truly competitive for a championship, so why sell any good pieces? And
so then, the thought is that they would make moves just thinking that they're not going to, if they make the playoffs, it's playing with house money, as you would say.
Well, there's 2 moves to make. There's the buyer-seller. So like everyone seems to be wondering if they're going to let Xander Bogaerts go.
But I think if you're within 3 games of a wild card spot, and you're the Boston Red Sox, especially, or any team that's going to make the playoffs for that matter. But if you're the Boston Red Sox and you're playoff proven, right? You've been in the playoffs. You know how to compete in the playoffs.
Right.
I would say that you can't fire sale. Wrong word. Fire sale is getting rid of a ton of players. Now, if you're going to get rid of a Bogaerts or a Devers, those would be the 2 main guys that people would be after. I think you stand pat. You don't if you're in the wild card.
But do you add? Because the question is not whether. So if they're within 2 or 3, if they're anything under 5 games, you would assume that they weren't going to dump people, even if they might lose them. So there's JD Martinez, there's Xander, whoever. But the thing is, do they add? And when you add, you usually have to give up prospects or something. And so if they're truly not competitive for a World Series, do they make? And I think the consensus is that they won't do that.
If they're going to add, what do they need to add? I mean,
Are you kidding me?
They probably have like 4 spots they need to add, right?
Max, you know what they need to add?
They need to add a first baseman,
That's one
right
spot.
fielder.
Right, exactly.
2 spots, a pitcher.
They have the worst production basically in baseball, those 2 positions, which are kind of important.
Right.
I mean,
so you're looking to add minimum 2 players.
Minimum.
Which is going to be at least probably 5 prospects. At least 5.
And they're not going to do that.
Right. So there's your answer right there. So they either need to do it with what they have and see what it is going, like you said, up to that last minute, and maybe one of those guys does get dealt if they fall off the table.
But doesn't that make you go back to your whole theory about how you hate Sox fans because they're okay with just making it and not trying to win it? I mean, to me, like that's the thing that
But maybe that's the mentality that's just driving this conversation right here. Like, what,
right? But I mean, is that okay? I mean,
I don't think it's okay. But at the same time, like, if you know these players aren't going to come back, like one of those guys is not coming back to the Red Sox.
Was like JD or
I would
Xander?
just say Bogarts or Devers.
Now,
one
listen,
of those guys.
it's very simple the way it's been described. If Bogarts goes, what happens to Devers?
Then Devers is gonna go because
Correct.
And Bogarts is a free agent before Devers. Right?
Correct. So
they'll know
Devers doesn't want to be here if Xander's not here.
So they'll know if Devers is going to be there after this season or if they trade. So if they're going to trade one of them, I would think they would trade Devers. He's got more value. He's got more control.
See, I believe that you can contend and rebuild. I've been a season ticket holder since I think 2005, and I might be if they let Xander go, even though I don't think he's that valuable to other teams. I don't think he's that good. Okay, he's in his early 30s, a lot of mileage. I don't know what he's going to get on the open market, but if they let him go, I'm going to be pretty crestfallen as a fan because there's not a lot of guys on that team I like. And I mean, the guys I like aren't that good. I mean, I love Jackie Bradley. He stinks. So they let Xander go, and Rafi's actually entertaining. I mean, JD Martinez might be a good baseball player, but he's not entertaining. He's kind of a drip.
Yes.
But Devers is entertaining.
Devers is the best out of all of them by far, and he's the youngest, so
Yeah.
he's the one that you want to keep, but he's also the one with the most value to get rid of.
If they lose Xander, I'm really borderline giving up.
So Bogarts, you said, how old is he? Like 30, 31?
I think he's 31.
And Devers is 25. He'll be 26 towards the
I think
end of
he's
the
got two
season.
more years, and he's a free man. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna as a Sox fan, I was just gonna say like if you're gonna get rid of Bogey, especially as a fan. It's definitely going to take a toll to the fans. They're not going to be as happy.
See, he makes a great point there, though, because the same thing's going to happen with Aaron Judge, right? Like, are these teams looking at that fan aspect? From what you say, no, they're not. I think they don't.
I don't. No, the Red Sox aren't. The Red
fans.
Sox aren't. I know that.
But that's a huge point that Max makes. Is like you can't turn your back on your fan base. You really can't.
But maybe you can if you're Boston or New York.
Well, I mean, Boston has shown they can do that with Mookie Betts.
I mean, I still.
I mean, he is arguably probably still one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, but they don't sell out anymore, and there's not a lot of fun on that. I mean, they did get over it, and we still will join on if they win. But I think the team, there's not the same feeling of energy surrounding the management, and that relationship. Like we don't feel that they're truly trying to win the World Series now. We don't know when they're trying to win it for, but
they just happen to stumble in and win it.
No, but this is where the Soto. It's true. I think that's true. The Soto thing is where it becomes interesting because if he was offered 15 years, he's 23. If he was offered 15 years and 440 in Washington, and Scotty Boras says no, what does that mean for Judge? Right. So like,
well, the difference is 7 years of age. That's the huge difference.
Okay, so maybe it's not 15. So maybe he gets 10 or 9.
I would be surprised if Judge got a 10-year contract.
So say
he's going to want a 10-year contract, right? Because he's going to point to like Albert Pujols and those guys who got those long-term deals, and they're withering at the back end of them, right? Not even on the team that gave it to him.
Okay, so Judge gets 8 for $320.
Yeah.
Would you think that's money well spent?
So that's $5 million more than he was going to get before.
I'm just saying, do you think that as a fan, do you think they should do that?
Absolutely, because like I said before, Judge, to your point, Max, he means more to that organization,
right?
And he is going to bring people in the stands. I mean, there's people that just go there to see him, and they want to see him hit a home run on a team with other players that can hit bombs, right? They'll go there specifically just to see Aaron Judge.
But he'll have that. Judge will have. See, my point with the difference between Judge and Bogarts is that Judge will have that value on any team in baseball. Bogarts does not have that value anywhere but Boston. Nobody's going to go see Xander Bogarts in Atlanta or Kansas City or wherever.
Yeah, it's true though, because like they said back in the day, the chicks dig the long ball. That's what people go to see.
He's 6'8". He's a freak of nature.
Right.
He's so good. It's just a different. It's just a different animal. And so, I don't know. I mean, I believe that Bogarts doesn't have as much leverage to leave. And I think that you look at him on paper, they look at his base data value, and it's not that valuable. So, like, unless he was going to take a discount, I don't think he's going to take a discount. So he's
going to wind up at one of those teams like Texas or something that's just going to overpay
anyone
for
who's
him?
going, yeah, and you know what? He'll regret it too. So the problem is that with the Bogarts thing, it's a lose-lose. He gets his money.
Right.
He'll never have to. I mean, he doesn't have to work a day in his life again now.
Probably won't win again either.
But that's what happens to these guys is that they both will regret it. Red Sox fans will regret it because they won't have a guy they truly like, and the player will eventually regret it unless he gets traded to a contender in 3 years because they're stuck in a place that no one gives a crap.
Yeah.
The thing that you can say all you want about Boston, whether it's the racism or the hardness of the fans, they care, and that means something.
And the point I just want to say is, like, especially me as Mookie Betts being my favorite player, when he got traded, I was I was crestfallen. I was pretty upset, and I think most of the fans were. And what I want to say is, like, I feel the same way about Bogey. And if Bogey, if they get rid of Bogey, it's gonna take a toll on the fans. And I especially I was talking about this the other day. It's gonna be hard for me to like the Red Sox the way I do now if they get rid of Bogey, because I feel such a connection to him.
Well, not only that, you're talking to someone who's got many, many years of watching and following the Red Sox in front of him. Like, that's an impression right
I
there.
agree, but I'm trying to figure out. No, Chaim Bloom and John Henry, we don't know what they think and feel, so we don't know what their intentions are. We know they're trying to build up a base in the minors, but we don't know what the goal is, to compete every year or try to win every year. And it seems that being competitive and being over 500 is more important than striking for a championship. And I only turned away, Max, because you're so cute and I could make you laugh, and I don't want to look at you too much because I know we'll both laugh. Let's shift gears to the Yankees for a second. And, you know, when you think about what they need to add, they just need a little bit of salt and pepper, right? I mean, that's all they need is some seasoning.
I think they definitely have a question mark with the pitching. With Severino's hurt again, so anytime those injuries keep popping up, I'm worried. He could just be the next thing that's never going to be there for a full season. So I worry about him. And I talked about this before. I worry about the inexperience of the bullpen for both ways. I'd be very worried about the closer. Yeah. And
he's not proven.
He's not proven. And Loaizaga came back, and he was a little sketchy. Now, granted, it's his first game back. He has experience. Maybe you get Britton back. I'm a little nervous about Herman coming back. He could step in for Severino, but again, coming off injury. I do still think the Yankees are going to go out and make a trade to get a pitcher, maybe Castillo from Cincinnati. He had a great audition. I'm on the fence still about an extra hitter because they've been doing it all along with Gallo. I think they can get by without it. I don't necessarily think they need that extra hitter, but, there was some weaknesses over the last series. Jose Trevino, we've noticed, has been playing way above his ceiling. He kind of came back to earth a little bit, showed a little bit of his weakness. But, listen, everybody has hiccups. You're not going to go out and get a catcher at this point. So you're sticking with him in the backup.
I don't think he hurts you. I
don't think he hurts you, but I think, everyone expected him to keep playing the way he's been playing, and he probably could have had one of the most worst at-bats I've seen all season with the bases loaded in extra innings against the Red Sox.
No, that is true.
I mean, that was just like insanely bad.
My take with the Yankees is that if Judge and Rizzo and Stanton, if you somehow focus on them and hold them in check, can Donaldson, Gallo Carpenter,
Gallo won't be there.
Okay, whoever it is, can they do some damage with the extra pitches? Right. So
that's what I'm saying. I think they can do it with Hicks being out there. As long as Stanton stays healthy, Judge stays healthy, and the main outfield stays healthy, they rotate that extra outfielder in there, and they're pretty much always covered. And they had LeCastro's back now, and he's playing good. I mean, I just feel like everything is kind of clicking for the Yankees. We talked about them kind of floundering a little bit. They need a rest, which all teams need a rest. It's baseball. The Yankees they need a rest just because I think everyone has been pressing so hard for them to stay at the level that they've been playing, and that's almost impossible to maintain.
Do you think this kid is a legit closer? Like, do you think I'm wondering. I'm just spitballing because, to me, the thing that would ruin the Yankees is I don't even think starting pitching in it. I mean, I think with Cole, maybe you pick
the back end of the game.
Yeah, and so what if you traded for an A-list closer and let the other guy be the setup man and a backup if the A-list closer falters? To me, that would be a good move.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. I mean,
because this kid maybe it's just not time, and I don't think you'd ruin his confidence.
No, I think he's got great stuff, but maybe it's like you said, it's something where you push him back to the 8th inning, and I don't know where Chapman fits in. He might just disappear.
Honestly, I've said this to you since the day we started. I know. This. If he's your closer or if he's key, you will never win.
No, I know, and I think he's proven that even more when he can't handle a 6th inning.
So
role.
The question is, in Clay Holmes, maybe he is the closer long term, and he's certainly for the most part done a great job.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. Closers are
They're
a dime a dozen. They don't
Right.
last. I mean, they're 2 or 3 years tops, and they're good. I mean, like, it's just not. I don't think it's something that teams should be putting any stock into anymore.
Right. So the question is, would you give up any talent to get an A-lister? What do you want to say?
I just wanted to say that last year, I'm gonna go back to last year at the trade deadline. So we brought in Schwarber, which I think we should have. I think we should have
I
re-signed
think
him.
nobody disagrees with that.
But you could see when we brought in Schwarber, he could play first base. He played outfield. But Bobby Dalbec stepped up his game. You could clearly tell his average went up, his home runs went up, his RBIs went up after the deadline because he had competition. I think that Frenchie's not as good competition. I know this isn't very relevant, but again, if they can bring in a first baseman like they need, I think they'll get a little more out of Bobby Dahlbeck than
Light a
they
spark.
have now.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah, but I also think, first of all, I love the kid. I love his look. I think he's done. I almost feel like, I don't know, maybe he needs to go like with like Benintendi and go to Kansas City
Right.
and toil in anonymity because he's not ready to be an everyday player for the Red Sox, even if he had Babe Ruth standing behind him. I just don't think he's going to do it. But I do think they need to upgrade at first base. I think it was a huge mistake not to sign Schwarber or Rizzo. If the Red Sox showed me their hand, John, when they didn't sign Schwarber.
Yeah.
Because the fans loved him. And he wasn't that expensive.
No, he would have fit perfect in Boston. He had a great personality for it.
And Rizzo would have been great too. And Rizzo looks great. He looks like he's in shape. Like he looked a little pudgy in the face in the past, but he looks super fit. Like I think.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look at Rizzo. So you look at his numbers, and his numbers really aren't that great. His home runs are up. His average is way down, right? But the way he has his at bats, for someone that watches pretty much every Yankee game, his at bats are great. And then when you need him to get a hit, he gets the hit. So he's not whiffing when it's crucial.
Right.
But if you looked at him real quick,
I love him.
and went by him on the stat sheet, you'd look at his average.
Well,
and
he's
be like,
batting 224, but in this day and age, honestly,
fine.
he's got 57 RBI and 22 home runs. I think those are the stats that.
And he plays insanely great defense at first
and he's
base.
a great teammate.
Yeah, he is a really good guy.
So-
It's funny though because Anthony Rizzo, he had the auction going for his Anthony Rizzo Family
You
Foundation.
got to tell them, yeah, this is a good story.
And this is funny because we were there. He was auctioning off hitting lessons with Stanton and Judge.
This is funny.
And someone posted online that they were going to bid on it and give it to Joey Gallo. I thought that was great.
That's really funny.
I mean, of all the stuff Gallo has just been destroyed this year by
feel bad.
and you know, I really kind of feel bad. I do feel really bad for the guy because he's weird. He's a weird dude. If you look him in the dugout, he's always kind of doing something weird. He's taken it very well. I don't know. I mean, you don't hear anything. He doesn't say anything. He never does interviews.
He's a non-story.
He's a non-story. He's just kind of like he's like that extra person that just hangs out with a group of people and just never gets involved with anything.
It's weird. You put the pinstripes on some people, and they either look bigger or they look smaller. Like when he was in Texas, I thought he was menacing. Like I thought he was so good.
Yeah.
I know the average and the strikeouts were still sort of the same, but like he's a shell. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Yeah.
I do agree with that, especially when he was in Texas. But when last year, even might have been the wild card when the Sox played the Yankees and the Sox won, moved on. I remember there was a moment in the game where he was up. He definitely had a chance to tie the game or take the lead, and you could just see he's a strikeout or home
literally
run guy. He's not a base hit guy.
And he has like no confidence this year. Like he goes up to the plate and it literally looks like he's going to strike out.
I know, that was one of the things we got to wrap things up. You know, in talking and watching when Rico Brogna is going to come on again, but I saw a lot of his games when he was with the Mets, and people look at bats either way. You're like, you're going to have 500. Just chill. You got so many. You go 0 for 4 2 days in a row, and you're feeling pressure that you can't believe.
Yeah.
Going up to the plate is frightening when you feel like you may not ever get a hit ever again. Like that's truly what it feels like to some of these guys.
I wonder if Joey Gallo's so bad this season that he's like, there's actually almost no pressure on him because it's like they're winning. He keeps playing and he never does really anything good. Maybe once every 50 at bats, maybe he does something. He'll hit a home run. He'll get into one, or he'll hit a double, or I don't know.
I think they will add a bat, and I think they're going to add at least one name arm in the bullpen, and
you think bullpen, not starter, right?
I think they'd go bullpen first, but I mean they could always use a starter. I mean the Severino back thing is definitely makes you nervous, and I don't know how great he is as a number 2. So, I mean, I think that's always in play, but it's you have to give up a lot to get A-line.
Yankees have a very good minor league system, and we haven't even brought up the fact that Soto's so-called on the trade market.
Yeah,
that's a whole other.
Everybody's saying New York, but I mean, he's not the guy they need, though.
No, but I mean, who wouldn't want that guy? I mean, if you get an opportunity to trade and get a guy like that, you go for it. You give up an Anthony Volpe, or you give up Jason Dominguez, or you give up both of them for that. You're talking about a 23-year-old player who's arguably probably the best hitter in baseball.
I know, but
and he's on a crappy team, dude. An absolutely crappy
15
team.
years and a half.
Well, maybe it's not 15 years. Maybe it's 10 years at $500 million.
I don't know.
And he's under control for 2 more years.
I have trouble with the long.
But we know he's only going if he ain't going. He's not going back to Washington, right?
But there's only like 5 places he can go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to talk New York, Chicago, L.A.
Yeah, and Boston maybe, but he's not. He doesn't fit the profile of the new Red Sox.
But that's what I'm saying. So like, if we talk Soto, you have to talk Yankees. You
and
have
Mets.
to
and
talk
Mets.
Yankees. You have to talk Mets. You have to talk
Cubs.
L.A.
Yeah.
Cubs. So those are the people.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him in New York. I would have no problem with that.
Real quick, halfway point before we go. Moving forward, give me your wild cards in the AL.
So I think Seattle with their talent, I think they'll go out and they'll get.
They're for real.
You think? Pitcher. I think they're for real. I think they got a ton of young talent, and they actually got more young talent that's hurt and coming back. But I don't even necessarily think they need it. I think they'll get someone for their bullpen. You
don't have to break down what they're going to do.
The Orioles aren't going to do it. I think. Okay. I think. The Red Sox kind of hang in, but I don't think they're going to make it in.
Okay, so you say Tampa, Seattle, and Toronto.
Tampa, Seattle, Toronto will be the ones I'll go with there. Yep.
Okay, you?
I would go Tampa, Seattle, Sox.
And no Toronto.
And no Toronto.
Wow. That's interesting.
And we're both saying Tampa. Like, it's crazy. Like, nobody talks about Tampa, but everybody talks about Tampa.
I think they're the most. I think they're the most likely to fall off. I just don't think they have Toronto's talent. I think Tampa and the Red Sox will fight for that last wild card. I think the Mariners. I do think that they obviously aren't going to win out. This winning streak is going to end. But I do think that they weren't as bad as they started. They're not as good as now, but they're probably. They could easily win 90, and I think they make it. So I think it's between the Red Sox and the Rays. I think Toronto's going to recover. I do, and I think they'll be fine.
They'll go out and get somebody. Toronto, they love spending money.
They've spent enough as it is.
Love spending money.
They got to put money on money because they have so much invested right now.
Yep.
They're not built for 5 years from now. They're built for the next 2 to 3. So
yeah. I'm going to the Yankee game against the Mariners in the beginning of August, so I'm actually really excited for that.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Maxwell, thanks for hanging on.
Anytime.
Yeah, this guy's got he's got some insight to the sport.
He loves it. He's so happy right now. He wants to do this. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman from Max Shackman. This has been Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry